to an infinite place within. So it's almost like the possibilities are so much a part of the journey that if you don't go there, you almost miss out on the whole heart of yoga. If you never challenge your comfort zone, if you never push yourself to the point where you're a little sore, not sore enough to injure yourself, but sore enough so that your muscles grow, then the yoga practice doesn't have the chance to expand your boundaries. It doesn't have the chance to work on the outer limits of what you believe is possible for yourself. Now, one of the things that I think is amazing about learning to balance on your arms, learning to lift the weight of your body off of the ground, especially if you start off at the point where it's hard and impossible for you, is you can actually use that as a laboratory to train your mind, to train the whole sphere of your consciousness for how you would stand, not just on your mat, but in any situation in your life, at the bottom of a seemingly impossible mountain and say to yourself, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to climb this hurdle, no matter how long it takes. And you would apply the same techniques that you learn through your physical yoga practice in your real life, in a sense. So you're actually using this rectangular sticky mat as a laboratory to train your mind to accomplish not just a really deep arm balance, but to have a strong enough mind, a strong and steady willpower to see any challenge through from the beginning all the way through until the end. The true power of a trained mind isn't, perfect handstand. The true power of a trained mind is being able to accomplish anything you set your mind to, with the full realization that the only thing standing between you and the dreams that you set your heart on is your mind and a little bit more time than you want, right? It's that little bit of extra time. Okay, so when we'll do the practice today, what we'll be working on is breaking down the technique a little bit, and we'll be first starting off with building a solid foundation in our body. Then once we get that solid foundation, we'll challenge that foundation by putting more and more weight on our arms. Now, one of the things that's really important is that you understand how long the journey is, right? It's not an instantaneous thing, it's not a quick fix. Not in terms of the deeper benefits of yoga, and not in terms of building muscles, right? If you start off with the premise that maybe your arms are a little too weak or your body is a little bit too weak, today, in the next 2 hours, it's not going to be the time when you finally bust it out. That's probably something you'll have to sort of, accept, right? The good news is that you will get techniques today that if you apply them sort of diligently over the course of your life and your practice, you will be able to develop strength that you can't even imagine today. Okay? But if you want it immediately, the truth of it is that it will never come, right? But if you say to yourself that you're willing to do the work, you're willing to let it take however long it takes, and be patient with the results, then almost instantaneously you'll feel a little better. You'll feel a sense of relief. So if you'll set the bar for yourself really low, right? If you'll look not for momentous epic leaps, right? But if you'll look for like 1 or 2% better than how you feel normally, 1 or 2% change, a little bit more understanding, just a teeny little bit more understanding, then that's actually how over the course of your life you'll slowly start to shift where you are into a stronger place, right? 1 or 2% at a time. Another thing to remember is that if you don't have some of the neurological or neuromuscular connections that we'll be working with today, so if you send a signal from your brain down to the body, we do this often, particularly when we learn new technique. You see sort of the results in the model and you're like, great. So then your mind has this little image up here. And so from up here, your mind's going like, okay body, do what I say, right? And you kind of send this signal. And the body is kind of like, kind of doing its own thing. And the more you're like, please just do it, like a command from above, you're like, pull the shoulder blades down the back, and then send this signal from up here, And the body, you're like, there's something, not like from here to there, something's gone like over there, and then the shoulders, and you're like, that's definitely wrong. Think it, but the body doesn't do it. So one of the things to remember is if you have that experience, it's not bad. It's not evidence that your body is flawed, but it is evidence that that neurological connection from your brain through the through the nervous system, resulting in connection to the muscles, resulting ultimately in movement of the joint, isn't functional yet. So when that happens, it's said that you need to send that signal sort of peacefully, patiently, for a minimum of 6 seconds before your body has a chance to respond. And that's something really important, because sometimes we send the signal and we're like, it didn't happen. And we're like, shoulder blades move down the back, up here like a command, and they don't do anything, and we're like, see, I told you, my arms are too weak, right? So if that doesn't happen immediately, you need to say it in an unbroken attention for 6 unbroken seconds before your muscle has a chance to respond unless it does it immediately. That make sense? 6 seconds is a bit of a long time. When you're sitting, it's not a big deal. When you're lifting your, heaving your pelvis off of the ground, 6 seconds can feel like 6 years up there in a long time, okay? The other thing is that when you're training your body, when you're training the way that your body works, this is basically what we're doing when we're learning a new pattern in the yoga practice. You're training the body. You have to send the signal, and the body has to respond on minimum about 1,000 times before that program can really run on autopilot. For example, if you're trying, when you were trying to drive a car, when you were, much younger and you were going to drive a car, there were all these programs you needed to really consciously think about. Turn the keys, turn it on, set them on, oh, that's the brake, and this sort of thing. There are all these little look over your shoulder and this kind of thing. Now there's so many little programs that run on autopilot in your body every time you drive. The same thing is in the practice. When you're learning to sort of drive the vehicle of your body, you need to send the signal and have the muscle respond about 1,000 times minimum before you have the chance to have the experience of inhale, I push into my arms, exhale, I jump back, okay? 1,000 times minimum every single place where there might not be energy and intention. That's 1,000 times minimum, meaning if you're a quick learner, right? On average, it's actually 10,000 times, okay? It's a very humbling thing. Remember when I said if someone, when you find out just how far it is you have to go, that's when the first test of the practice becomes. So 6 seconds, 10,000 times is like 18 hours, right? So I guess if you really wanted to program something, you'd stay in the same position for like 18 hours, but I think your body would get exhausted before that. So, but when we think about it, it makes sense why 6 days a week practice is really there. So we have, 6 days a week practice, so we can really start to whittle away at those,